You're listening to Operation Self Reset with Jake and Rocky. Welcome to 2019. What is going on, you freaking awesome people? Welcome back to Operation Self Reset, assisting today's next generation to become better than the norm, bigger than the bullies, and create more impact than they ever thought possible. Reset your path to become your best. So, today we're kind of changing it up a little bit. If you have been a long term listener of the podcast, you know a couple of things. Number one, raw, real, and relevant information. Raw, as in this is unedited, this is off the cuff. It is truly like a conversation, as if I'm speaking to you one on one. If we're at the cafe, there is no editing. I am not going to sound perfect. I'm going to cough, sneeze, and have issues with my voice, and I think that's totally fine. Number two, it's relevant. This is information that can assist you today, can assist you in the future, and of course, it can assist you whether you're 18 years old or 98 years old. And lastly, raw, real, and relevant. The real aspect is I am as good as you, as in I'm no better than you, I am no smarter than you, I am just a man with a plan to assist you in your journey of becoming your personal best. It's a hard journey, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a long climb, but the only way to get to the top of the mountain is to go one foot in front of the next. Now, the reason why I'm changing it up here a little bit is because I found a new passion. That passion is assisting my three boys in becoming the best that they can personally become. Now, this may apply to you. You may be in your mid 50s, mid 60s, and you're looking for guidance. And I believe that the information that I'm going to share with you guys will assist you. This is not designed to assist a 10-year-old in embark on his or her success. This is designed on good fundamental ideas that can assist anybody in any trajectory in life to assist them in moving forward. And today we're going to be talking about the power of the handshake. Now, the handshake is a universal term that has been around since the beginning of time almost. It is a interaction and a very humbling experience for both representatives when they meet each other for the first time. Now, to give you a little bit of background, the first time I learned how to do a proper handshake when I was around 5 or 6 years old. I worked with my father, or I should say, I basically tagged along with my father as he embarked on his real estate career. And if you know anything about real estate, you need to have good connections. There is not a lot of margins in your early days of building your real estate empire, so you need to build personal relationships to get the best deals possible. Best deals possible include being genuine, being real, being thoughtful, being caring, and of course, striking a deal that pleases both the investor, the person paying for the product, and of course the person, the servant, I guess, or the tradesman that is actually performing the work. My father was very good at that. My father was very good at negotiating terms and contracts. My father was very good at getting the lowest possible price so he could reap the benefits. And because of that, he also, though, very much respected the people that he worked with. He respected the locksmith, he respected the painters, he respected the plumbers. Even though he was getting the best deal, even though he was dragging them through the mud and really nickeling and diming the heck out of them to get the best deal, he still respected the people. And the way that he respected them was giving them time of day. He enjoyed talking with them, and most importantly, he enjoyed shaking their hand. He enjoyed sharing that respectful experience. Now, it doesn't matter if you are a adolescent or you've been around for a very long time, you and I have probably shaken a lot of people's hands. Now, this is to maybe a little more to the generation that hasn't shaken a lot of people's hands, but also to as a reminder to the people that have shaken a lot of hands on the proper ways to do that and the right techniques, and of course, lastly, the 4 different ways to shake a person's hand. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because recently I was at the firehouse. Now, if you don't know my story, I work for the fire department. I'm an officer. I work in some very busy companies here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, especially in the state of Wisconsin. We are the busiest fire department, of course. We are the busiest city, and that relates to basically the busiest. Like I think we're like the 23rd or 20th busiest fire department in the United States of America. Now, that is not to impress upon you, but basically to remind you that there are going to be a lot of members that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. There are a lot of people that I know because I am good friends with them, and also too, there's a lot of people I don't know. I haven't came across who they are and what they're about in their background. And the best way to start that interaction, to start that trust, is with a firm handshake. Now, this morning, I just got off shift. There were a couple lady firefighters that just joined up on the fire department. And because of that, out of respect, they go up to the officers and people they don't know, and they shake their hand and say, "Hi, I'm so and so firefighter, blah blah blah, and nice to meet you," and so on and so forth. And you can tell individuals that have experience of shaking people's hands versus people that don't. And I think we can all understand that if you are a young individual, shaking a person's hand is not very comfortable to you. It's kind of weird. It's kind of cumbersome, but yet it's a sign of respect. It's something that you need to do. And speaking to the generation that is not shaking as many hands as they should be, the idea is simple. Get out there, shake hands, meet people, and understand who they are. The more people you know, the better off you will be. Plain and simple. Doesn't matter who you are, your age, or what industry you plan on getting into. The more hands you shake, the better you know people, and the more people, the better you are off in the world. And so, when it comes to a handshake, there's a couple of things to really understand. Number one, my theory is there's 4 basic handshake principles. And number 2, there is, even if you don't recall any of these 4 different types of handshakes, understand this: eye contact will win every single time. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that shake people's hands and they don't want to look at that individual. They will look at the hand shaking the other hand. That's kind of useless, right? We are human beings. We love interaction. We like to see the people that we are interacting with. The best way to do that is to lock eyes, is to be very confident in the way that you look at a person. And of course, the second is the interaction between the hands shaking one another. Now, before we get into the handshake itself, I think it is very profound for me to explain the idea of eye contact. Eye contact is not a power struggle. Eye contact is not to prove that you are better than anybody else. It doesn't matter if you're a supervisor or a newcomer to an industry or a job, or even interacting with a different male or female that you want to engage with as your boyfriend or girlfriend later on. I think the idea of eye contact is more of a respect, but also a more of a confidence kind of thing. If you have eye confidence, if you have eye contact with somebody, it shows that you respect them. You want to know them. You look at them and understand that they're a human being, understand that you want to get to know them, and you're opening yourself up. But also, too, eye contact can have a double-edged sword. That too much eye contact, wow, if you can say eye contact 10 times in a sentence, you win. Eye contact too profoundly can show a power struggle. It can show that you are being dominant. You're the alpha in that relationship. And when you first engage with somebody, I don't think anybody tries to be the alpha, but if you kind of switch the gears a little bit, if you think back to maybe an interview process, or you meeting your boss for the first time, or you maybe meeting a celebrity or an icon or somebody that you truly respect, chances are the people that is going to be in that higher power is going to have eye contact on a different level than yourself. And I mean that as in, when you meet a supervisor, you meet somebody that is respected by a lot of peers, they are going to have a different type of swagger about them. They're going to have a different type of way that they hold themselves up to everybody else. And it is a good idea to remind yourself that when you do meet these individuals that do have a very confidence in their eye contact, it isn't so much a power struggle. You don't want to kind of battle with the eyes, but it's more of to understand that this person feels that they're in power, and because I'm meeting them for the first time, I want to respect them. I want to understand them. And from there, I'm going to make my own judgments as the days, weeks, and months go on. Eye contact, though, regardless of whatever stage you are in your life, is tried and true. It's needed. The main question I get asked all the time is, where should I look people in the eye? What eye should I be looking at? There is a book on eye contact, and I read it, and the theory is there is no direct eye that you should be looking at, because people feel when one individual is looking at one eye versus two. The thing that you need to understand when you're meeting an individual for the first time, you want to have a general flat gaze between almost looking at the bridge of their eyes. You don't want to be fixated, you don't want to focus on it, but you want to have almost like the best way I could say is if you're doing trap shooting is when there's clay pigeons or these clay discs that get shot in the air, and you have a shotgun in your hand. And even if you never shot a shotgun, you need to understand that at the end of the shotgun barrel, there's a bead. It isn't a scope, it isn't a line of sight, it is a bead. It is kind of a general path on where the shotgun barrel is headed. And it's almost like you are putting up this shotgun barrel and looking at the bead. The bead isn't an exact path, it's not like a crosshairs, but it is a kind of, with both eyes open, a general path on where the tip of the shotgun is going to go. And from there, you pull the trigger, and if you're somewhat in the vicinity of the clay pigeon that's in the air, you're going to knock it out of the park. The same applies to eye contact. It isn't so much on which eye you're focused in on, it's more of a general gaze, but focusing on the bridge of the nose, kind of in between the two eyes. If you do that, you will be okay. If you start slashing your eyes all around their face, slashing your eyes down their body, looking at their shoes and their coat and their suit, tie, or dress or whatnot, the other individual is going to notice that. And once they notice that, they're going to start to feel uncomfortable. I have a really funny story. When we were in high school, I was with a friend of mine, and we were kind of the silly people in the class, and him and I would laugh, and as we were laughing, we're staring at the teacher. By no means were we laughing at the teacher, but the teacher was so frustrated by us looking at him and laughing that he literally thought there was something on his face. He thought there was something on his clothes, and he was frustrated, and he was irritated, and really pissed off. And because of that, we made him feel uncomfortable because of the way that we darted our eyes around his body. By no means did we intend for him to feel uncomfortable because of the way that he looked or he had something on him. Regardless, it was just an idea that when you start moving your eyes around, people will start to feel uncomfortable. If you're looking for the right spot, gaze in between the two eyes. So let's get into the handshake method. Now, there's 4 handshake methods that hopefully I will break down here, but of course there's only one good method. But let's break down the 4. Number 1, you have the limp hand. Number 2, you have the extra care handshake. Number 3, you have the power handshake. And number 4, you have the respect. Now, obviously, by the name of number 4, I hope that's the one you always go with, but let's break it down real quick. Number 1 is the limp hand. The limp hand is nothing more than going in for a handshake, but instead of you kind of going deep and going kind of thumb to thumb in a handshake manner, you kind of back out or you grasp the other individual's hand too early, and so you're really just shaking the tips of his hands, or I should say the tips of his fingers. And we've all been there, we've all experienced it. Majority of the time it's usually a female because they don't have as big hands to really go in for a deep, hearty handshake, but also, to understand that a limp handshake is a power struggle, that it subconsciously understands that who has the bigger hands, who is naturally stronger. Because of that, the individual who is less dominant will feel a little pressure because they're not as well suited versus the other person. Now, the reason why I say dominant or alpha or these other keywords is because if you think through history, if you really go back into how we were developed as human beings, you got to remember the reason why a lot of us like to shake hands, or the reason why we shake hands, is to show our hands. And the reason why I say that is because back in the day of kind of the gladiators, before that of the kind of Stone Age era, if your hands were covered, it meant that you had a weapon or you had a tool in your hands. And we were threatened by other individuals who had weapons in their hands. And that's why when we see people from afar or meet people, we like to see their hands. When their hands are open, it gives us a little bit of a calming effect. If the person's hands are always in their pocket, if their hands are always covered, if their hands are always moving around inside of the jacket pocket, we are going to be a little more aware. And also, too, we might have a little more resentment of meeting this individual or opening up because we might feel that their hands in turn have a weapon or a tool or something that could impinge pain on us. And so, because of that, the handshake is not so much just designed to shake somebody's hand out of respect, but also to show that you have no weapons in your hands. As in, there's nothing that I have that will hurt you. And because of that, we are going to meet on even terms here, and I'm going to shake your hand out of respect. And as you can tell, respect is number 4. So, number 1 is the limp hand. Make sure that when you do shake somebody's hand, you try to go in as deep as possible. You try to make eye contact as you are shaking that person's hand. If you limp hand them, as in you just either you allow them to shake just the tips of your hands or fingers, or you shake the tips of their fingers, make sure regardless you are making eye contact, that general gaze between the two eyes right there at the bridge of the nose. Number 2 is the extra care handshake. The extra care handshake is when you go in for a handshake, your non shaking hand is going to touch either their hand or their wrist, almost as if I was to shake your hand, I would put out your hand would come into mine, and I take my non-dominant shaking hand and I cup it around both of our hands as kind of a sandwich, an Oreo cookie, if you would say, of a handshake. And by doing that, it means that I'm very grateful for you. That it means that I'm very thankful to meet you. It's an honor. I'm really privileged, or I really appreciate that I'm finally meeting you for the first time. When you go in there for that type of handshake, it shows that you are letting that other person be the dominant person. When you let somebody be dominant, when you let somebody be the alpha, it shows respect, and it gives that person a little bit of an endorphin boost. It releases chemicals inside of the brain that make them feel good, makes them feel powerful, makes them feel wanted. It makes them feel capable. And especially in today's world where there's a lot of what ifs, it allows that person to feel good in that conversation. And if you're able to make somebody else feel good when you're engaging in conversation or negotiating or trying to get a job or meeting somebody that could potentially be your husband or wife, it is a good sign. It allows them to relax. It allows them to be empowered and to feel capable that this is going to go well. So number 1, we have the limp hand. Number 2, we have the extra care handshake. Number 3, we have the power handshake. The power handshake is nothing more than if you were to look at presidents or people of power that are in the media or getting filmed all the time. Watch how they shake somebody's hand. The power handshake is twofold. Number 1, they have a traditional handshake, but instead of the hand cupping the other hand, almost like an Oreo, they take their non-dominant hand and they place it on the elbow. And if they place one hand in the handshake and their non-dominant hand, or non-shaking hand, I should say, on the elbow, it shows that they're the aggressor. It shows that they are the dominant person. It shows that they want the power. Now, today, as I record this episode, it's 2019, in February of 2019. The president of the United States here in America is Donald Trump. If you watch the way that he shakes other politicians' hands, you will see that he goes in for a traditional handshake, but then his non-shaking hand will go towards the elbow. The elbow indicates that he can grasp the whole arm and be in control of that person. It sounds ridiculous, but these are subliminal messages that are being triggered from point person A to point person B. And if you want to be the person in power during the conversation, negotiations, whatever it is, try to use the power handshake. Now, you need to understand and respect the power handshake. It is not something to do every single time. It is not something that is meant to show and to swagger yourself into every conversation, but it's supposed to be used in correlation of an event where you might need a slight edge depending on what is going on. For example, when you go in to buy a car, for example, which all of us will do at some point in our life, instead of going in for a traditional handshake, try going in for a power handshake. Shake their traditional hand, non-shakeable hand will go towards the elbow. And it gives you that little bit of edge when it comes to negotiation time to maybe get $1,000, $5,000 off of your vehicle. Easier said than done, of course. And of course, there's more to negotiating than just the handshake. But along with the power handshake, I want to share with you a story. There was a battalion chief on the fire department that enjoyed when he would shake people's hands. He would shake their hand as a traditional deep handshake, but then pull his arm towards himself. which would pull that person towards him. It would pull them off balance. It was a thing that he did on a regular basis that would throw people off of their normal game. And by doing that, it showed that to this other person that he's in control, he's stronger than the other person, he's unpredictable, and lastly, he is the dominant person. And because he would shake somebody's hand and pull his arm closer to his body, which in return would pull the person that he's shaking the hand with towards him, it showed that he's the alpha. It showed that I'm in control. And because of that, it irritated a lot of people, but most importantly, that he usually got what he needed. And people respected him, I would say, maybe a couple of drops more than anybody else because he had that handshake and he did it on a regular basis. But I will say there were a lot of people in the fire service that did not like that. There was a lot of people that did not care for it, and there were a lot of people that were prepared for when that individual came and shook hands, they would kind of ground themselves, have a wider base, and they didn't want to get pulled around. But lastly, the last handshake here is the respect handshake. It is nothing more than a traditional handshake. You go in for a deep shake, you look at the person's eyes, you respect them, you say thank you, nice to meet you, and it's a very even terms handshake. This is something that you would do when you know that you're in trouble. You know that it might not go in your favor, or when you go in for an interview, or you meet somebody for the first time, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're about, and you want to show respect to that other individual. It is the most traditional, the most proper thing that you can do. A handshake will show so much about you, charisma, character, so much about you. And I really, really hope, if nothing else, if you listen to nothing else in this episode, is this: to my boys, Nolan, Ethan, and Sawyer, and especially the young people that are moving up in the world, be the first person to initiate the handshake. Be the first person to initiate the handshake. I'm going to say it one more time. Be the first person that initiates the handshake. If you meet somebody for the first time, or somebody from across the room says, "Hey, Jake," that's my name. "Jake, meet Jim. We grew up together." You go up to that person and you shake their hand first. You don't stand there with your hands in your pocket. You don't stand there with your arms crossed. You don't stand there with your hands down by your side and just say, "Hey, what's going on? What's up? Nice to meet you." You go up to that person. You reach out to them. You shake their hand. I'm going to say it again. If you want to succeed in life, it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or 555 years old. You go up to people and shake their hand. Even if they don't want to shake your hand, you go up to them and you shake their hand. It will be a game changer. It will be a totally different altitude of your own personal life when you go out there and you be the initiator. You don't wait for other people to shake your hand. You go and shake their hand. It gives yourself the confidence to walk up to anybody, number one, and number two, it shows respect to that person, is that you will go out of your way to shake that person's hand. If you do not do that, you will not be successful. Now, I'm not saying successful in financial gain. I'm not saying successful in financial or in famous terms, but I'm saying you will not reach your pinnacle of success because you're unwilling to approach people that you don't know. Once again, I'm going to say it just in case there was a glitch. The podcast app totally botched my whole last 22 minutes of my presentation here. Is this: yes, you go up and shake that individual's hand. You don't wait for them to shake your hand. You go in for a traditional handshake. You look them in the eyes. You say, "Nice to meet you. Great to meet you. Awesome. So I've heard so many great things." Whatever it is, a nice little gentle positive comment to go with the handshake, to go with the eye contact, will absolutely open doors. It will absolutely change the trajectory of your life. If you're confident to walk up to anybody and shake their hand, you have the edge. You have the keys to the kingdom. You will be in control, not only of your life, but of your destiny. Shake people's hands. Get out there. Don't have your hands in your pockets. Don't keep them in your pants. Don't keep them on your side. Don't keep them under your armpits. Don't put them above your head. Stand up and shake their hand. Lastly, if you're sitting, stand up, shake their hand. Don't sit and shake somebody's hand. Stand up and shake their hand. If they're on the other side of the table, get up, walk around the table, shake their hand. If it's a very challenging obstacle for you to shake their hand, figure it out, get up and shake their hand. I'm telling you, it sounds easy, but the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. If you do this, I promise you, things will come together for you, for my boys, for the kids listening, for the grown-ups that don't do this, for the individuals that are introverts, or for the individuals who can't figure out what the heck is going wrong in their own personal life. A simple handshake will work miracles in your life for you, your family, and for the people around you. If you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing, approach them first. Don't be shy. Shake people's hands. The more you do it, the better you get. The better you get, the better you feel. The better you feel, the more confidence you have. The more confidence you have, the more connections you make. The more connections you make, the more successful it will create. Okay, the more successful it will create by you shaking hands. It sounds kind of like like I'm really pushing it, I'm really being angry in it, but I'm really reflecting on my boys here and the potential what they can do in this world, and it all begins with a simple handshake. So doesn't matter who you are, what you're about, it's a reminder to all of us, go out there, shake hands, be the proactive individuals. If you're sitting, stand up, shake a hand. If you meet them for the first time, get your butt up, walk around the table, even if it's awkward and weird, shake their hand. People will notice, people respect you, and most importantly, you'll gain confidence. So with that being said, go out there, be freaking awesome. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and until next week, Wednesday, share a little bit of awesomeness, and most importantly, if you have a second, please leave a review on iTunes for this show. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for being a part of Operation Self Reset.